adventure game book audio thing when I can forget the name for it. As you can probably see, this is HeroQuest. Now, like the previous one by Corgi Books, this was also by Corgi Books. From 1991 to 1993, Corgi released a series of HeroQuest books. The first one, The Fellowship of Four, in 1991. The second one, The Screaming Spectre, in 1992. And the third one, The Tyrant's Tomb, in 1993. All three written by Dave Morris, who wrote the previous Transformers one. It was quite a writer for Corgi. And all three of them contained a short story, an adventure game book section, and the last two or three contained a HeroQuest mission, which, yeah, so you can actually play on board. Now, the adventure game sections is quite interesting because they kind of follow the HeroQuest game, but are slightly more advanced. And we'll go into the rules for it in a bit, and that's going to take a little while. The other books I know actually did this were the Nightmare books, based on the TV show, or TV game show. I've only got one of those, and I'm not quite sure what it is at the moment. But again, that had a short story, and then an adventure game book section. Personally, I think it's a good idea, and Corgi did it. I mean, get both worlds. Anyway, there's not really any artwork in these books. There are little bits of pictures, but these little pictures are by Gary Chalk, I believe, and taken from the HeroQuest board game itself. The covers being Lizard Woods, again taken from HeroQuest. In fact, the first one is literally the cover art for HeroQuest. The second one is the cover art from Wizards of Morcar. And the third one is the cover art from the Adventure Design Kit. Now, I'll go over these rules probably full, but I said they're based on the game quite a bit, but they're also a bit more complex in places. So I'll just read it out and see if I can explain it. I mean, most of it, when you just read it, it makes sense. Your travels have brought the four of you to Knocklaw, an eldritch country beyond Blackfire Pass. It was from west of this wild wasteland of fells and fens that in ancient times the King of the Dead sent his legions against the living. Fortunately, he was defeated by heroes of that bygone era. There are those who say he lies buried at the heart of one of the granite tors that you can see thrusted up from the barren moorland. Now, the King of the Dead. Now, in Warhammer, the King of the Dead pub being Nagash, which was Gary Morley's sculpted figure, and we're not going to talk about that because people are very, very divided on this figure. In HeroQuest, you could also argue that it is the Witch Lord. not only was the subject of a 3-mission story arc in the original quest book, but had a whole expansion, The Return of the Witch Lord. So that could easily be him, but we're not quite sure. The Blackfire Pass is quite a well-known place in Warhammer. Basically, it was the edges of the Empire, and most of the rocks were home to the various Carracks of the dwarfs, which are their bases. The land beyond being called Knocklaw, I'm assuming that's a completely original made-up one here, because I don't know of any place in the old maps. If there's anything there. Anyway, that's fine. It's one of the land that's over there. But totally fine, no problem with that. You turn away from the window. Okay, this is confusing me. Right. So it looks like the mob edit is a bit here, because I would have done that. You travelled there, then described the fact that you were in the building. But no. You turn away from the window, preferring the cheery warmth of the inn to the bleak moonlit landscape outside. As you sup your ale, however, you cannot help noticing how quiet it is in the tap room. None of the locals seem all that curious about you, even though it must be rare for them to meet people who are from more than a few miles away. Rather than ask you about your adventures, they just sit in silence, staring morosely into their mugs. Okay, this is a bit weird. Outside the Empire, you're past the Dwarf lands. I wouldn't expect many humans there. Unless I'm getting my old world maps confused. I'm gonna say that they did update and revise bits a few times, but sometimes they just completely redid everything. They mostly kept it roughly the same, with little bits shifting around, but yeah. It's possible you could have a thing beyond the block frame, but it'd be mostly, yeah, I think that's more over chaos wastes or undead. So I'd be unlikely to find human settlements there. I suppose it's possible though. The door bangs open, and entering along with the cold and autumn's dead leaves comes a tall old man in a shag coat. He forces the door closed against the rush of the night wind, and then crosses the tap room to converse in low whispers with the landlord and some of the elders. From the sighs and grim shakes of the head, you deduce that some very weighty matter is being discussed. Eventually, the tall fellow fetches a cup of mulled ale and brings it over to stand by the fire. He looks chilled to the bone and deeply worried. So, do you ask him what's going on? Or decide to mind your own business? This being an adventure, and us being heroes who are thinking, oh no, something's wrong here. He apparently looks a bit worried. I'm going to ask him what's going on. It's logical. So, at your invitation, he eases himself onto a stool beside the table and introduces himself as Doles the Glim. Doles the Glim? A local wise man. In my younger days, he used to sort out messes of troubles thereabouts, he tells you. These days, the old bones creak too much, though. So, you ask, what's all the commotion about tonight? Oh, a bad business, and that's the truth, he says solemnly. He gives his cup a laborious look and then adds, have you noticed what a poor, lonely sight an empty ale mug makes? Oh, what a typical thing. An old man walks into a pub begging for a drink. You have a choice. You can buy him another mug of ale. The dwarf must agree to this since he's got the money. Or you can not. Well, as I'm the dwarf, I'm going to agree to it. Because I'm a dwarf. Dwarfs love money and drinking. Ah, 'tis true gentlefolk you are, says Douse as he calls the landlord over to fill his cup. Dwarf should cost 1 piece of silver. It costs 1 piece of silver in order to get a mug. God, wish we lived in those days. I mean, what do we have for silver? 5p. 5p for a mug of ale. As long as it isn't mead, that stuff's deadly. After he takes a thirsty swig, he starts to tell you the tale. It is the poor milkmaid, Perdidia, from the village, you see. She has been spirited away, and there's no doubt she'll have been taken to the old maze that lies far out over the moor. It was the home of grim Duggold, as black-hearted a devil as ever wore a man's face, and since his death not a soul has been there and come back to tell of it. Now it is the haunt of goblins and dead things. Yeah, one thing that always confuses people with HeroQuest is you generally in the Warhammer world wouldn't get goblins and undead working together. I mean, they're possible, but Warhammer, you keep certain races separately, but they're kind of allies. But in HeroQuest, they're just a complete mess. Yeah, they'll be fine. Surely the villagers will band together and attempt to rescue, you say. You're heroes, but you're very naive heroes. He shakes his head and sighs. On any other night, perhaps, we might reckon on a handful who are brave enough, but this is Samhain Eve, when the unseen folk go abroad on the moors, and all manner of wild witchery. No one dares venture out at night, and in the morning, no doubt, poor Perdidia will be. I've just realised. It's Predator, isn't it? As in the New Avengers. Poor Predator will be found cold and dead in a ditch. You now got a choice. Do you want to go to the haunted maze and rescue the maid? Or do you want to stay in the inn and get drunk? I can actually think of a number of people who will say stay at the inn and get drunk. In roleplay, this is generally known as force your players to do something, else it's going to be a very boring night. So I'll go to the haunted maze and that, because of course I'm going to go to the haunted maze. We'll do it, you cry. We'll go to the old maze this very night. Your announcement is greeted by the other villagers with some sort of enthusiasm that might give someone who has just declared themselves to be carrying the Black Death. They stare at you, slack-jawed, then hastily set down their mugs and set off home. As each of them passes your table to get his coat from the pegs by the door, he gives you a grave look and crosses himself before scurrying out. Just as you are heading out of the inn, you bump into a peddler who is parking his handcart outside. And apparently everyone here is a Catholic. Fair enough. Do you want to stop and talk to the peddler? Or do you want to hurry up past him? I'm going to talk to the peddler, because I'm expecting either he's got valuable information, or some valuable equipment, or he's an evil person who's going to try and attack me. Either way would be a bit of fun. He has just arrived at the inn, having dawdled somewhat in getting out this morning from the last village where he was staying. His route brought him over the moors and has spent the last few hours travelling in gathering darkness. He has a drawn, pale look about him, like someone who has seen a fearful sight, and obviously keen to get himself a warm drink. He is reluctant to waste time talking to you, so decide carefully what you will say to him. Do you ask him what he saw out on the moors? Do you ask him the best route to the old maze? Or do you ask him what he has for sale? Let's see, the dwarf is going to say, "What do you have for sale?" At first, he is reluctant to waste time talking to you. Yeah, he kind of already had that sentence. But then he says, "Ah, well, have a look and see what suits you." He whisks the canvas off his cart to display a jumble of items. Most are junk, but sourcing through, you find some objects that might come in handy. And we have a list of items you can buy here. We have a length of rope for 5 silver pieces, an oak staff for 8 silver pieces, a jar of healing salve for 14 pieces, which can be used to restore 1 lost body point, and you can actually use it 3 times, a sprig of garlic for 1 silver piece, a silver dagger for 19 silver pieces, and a vial of holy water costing 7 silver pieces. Now, it says then the dwarf should decide what you are buying, if anything. So, you have to decide. The dwarf currently has 19 left. I can buy a silver dagger. Don't want a silver dagger. Silver Dagger might be useful, because the problem with that sprig of garlic makes me think vampire. I don't know why vampire and garlic have to be that connected. It's kind of a more modernish thing, but there you go. Probably because vampires were not French, therefore they hated the smell of garlic. Can I say that? Apparently I have. Yeah. Healing salve, yeah, 3 body points. Well, 1 body point at a time, but there's enough free uses, so 3 body points. Could be useful, but it's quite expensive. And I already have a healing spell. But didn't I have 2 healing spells? Yeah, heal body and water of healing. So I don't really need more healing. Oak staff, which is what the wizard should be given by default, surely. There's the length of rope. Yeah, could be used to hang yourself. Vial of holy water. Again, holy water, you've already been told about undead. Could be a vampire. Holy water will be useful. Not generally much damage, but at least hold them back off. See, I'm really deciding between the silver dagger and the holy water. Silver dagger uses up all my money. Holy water, I can also buy some other stuff. I'm gonna buy the holy. Oh, there's also a problem of who's gonna carry what. That should be quite easy. I'm gonna buy the holy water for 7 gold pieces, and I'll give that to the barbarian. So I put in the holy water, which is 7. That takes me down, and this is where my amazing math skills come in mind. So amazing math skills say it's 12. Now, with 12 left, I can buy, I think, oak staff, which I'm going to give to the wizard. Oak staff, which then takes me down by another 8, leaving me with 4 gold pieces. And I buy a sprig of garlic, which I'll give to the dwarf. Because the dwarf can carry garlic, he's not going to notice. Garlic, which leads me down to 3 silver pieces. Since I'm going inside a mansion, I doubt those silver pieces will be much use for that. Right, the peddler. Then, as the peddler goes to spend his money in the inn, you head out over the barren moor. You make your way across the moors. The moon shows as a white gleam behind heavy shutters of cloud. Looking ahead, you can see 3 possible routes. One is a stone lichway that passes by a number of ancient burial mounds. The second, used by carts heading to and from the market, leads over the moors to the town of Lithron. It skirts a ruined castle which many believe is haunted. Alternatively, you can take the path that winds through the misty hollows. Yeah, it could get lost in the moors before you even got into the place here. Well, the Lichway goes through burial mounds. That sounds dangerous. That sounds like skeletons rising from their grave. The Cartway skirts a ruined castle. Ruined castle, would that be the maze? Probably not. They believe it's haunted. The maze is believed to be haunted, don't know. Or could take the way that goes through the misty hollows. Yeah. Again, this one thing's tricky, and I'm rubbish at deciding things. I do know I'm gonna probably die a bit in this mission, see how it goes, anyway. Actually, I'm gonna go through the hollows. Yeah. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I can put what number going to. You have not gone much further before beginning to regret your choice. The terrain is soggy underfoot, and even though you stick to the low dike of drier ground that seems to mark the path, your boots are soon waterlogged. As if it were not bad enough, the mist thickens and swirls around you. Visibility drops until even your comrades around you appear like ghosts. You trudge on, the wet squelch of your tread muffled by fog, until you catch sight of a campfire. Do I head to the campfire, or do I not head to the campfire? I'm going to head to the campfire because I'm really soggy. As you get closer, Emerging out of that mist, you see a wizened old trowel squatting behind a spluttering peat fire. He looks up and greets your approach with his brutish nod. Under the floppy brim of his hat, his eyes glitter darkly like droplets of tar. A while passes, then he gestures you to sit down and share the warmth of his fire. The acrid smoke stings your eyes, and for a moment you have a wild fancy that this trowel's fire is a source of thick mist. But of course, that is nonsense. There's not much. I can't remember if trowels been in the Warhammer world, but Bubble, you do not know much about trowels since they are elusive beings. Folklore does suggest it is unwise to decline a trowel's hospitality, but makes no attempt to reconcile this with the equally strong belief that one should have nothing whatsoever to do with them. So this basically says some of the folklore says don't decline their ideas. They say they want you to do something, do it. I would say, yeah, don't do them. I'm actually going to sit by the fire because, again, I'm freezing cold. The smoke gives out more smoke than warmth. You sit beside it, rubbing your hands against the evening chill and keeping a weary eye on the trowel. After a while, because the fire is burning low, the trowel reaches out a hairy hand to his left and picks up a broken branch that you had not noticed laying there before. He tosses it on the fire. Crackling flames shoot up as the wood catches alight. This gives off more heat, but eventually the branch burns low and you are forced to huddle closer to the fire. The trowel reaches out and touches you, sending a shock through your skin, as if you had suddenly found a large spider crawling on your leg. You look up startled, but he only stares back with his cold black eyes and slowly points a gnarled finger to your left. There, a short distance from the fire, you see another broken branch. The trowel still says nothing, but he seems to want you to fetch the branch. Do you do it, or stay where you are? Again, I've already decided I'm going to do what he says. Just see what he wants. The first player in battle order gets up and goes to fetch the log. At the same time, the mist closes in even more thickly, and for a moment, the rest of the party loses sight of their comrade. A sound rings, you cannot be sure. Several seconds pass, and still your comrade does not return. You think this rather odd, since the branch did not seem that far away. You peer into the bank of fog, but you can see no sign of your friend. Do you wait a little longer for him or her to come back, or do you go looking? Well, yeah, I'm going to go looking. I'm hoping he found something. You have not gone very far from the fire before the mist sweeps back like a curtain, and now you can see your comrade. He or she is sunk to the waist in a sticky quagmire. You rush forward, but you soon see that rescue will not be easy. One wrong step and another you could be caught in the bog. Oh goody, it's the hand of Baskervilles. If you want to try using an item, you can do one thing, or you can turn to the campfire. Now, try using an item. Well, the rope would have been helpful, but I'm hoping the open staff will help. Because again, you put the staff out, people catch it. Let's see. Which of these will you try? The length of rope? The oaken staff? If you have neither, you're screwed. I'll go for the staff, because I've got the staff. I'm going to lose my staff, aren't I? You push the staff towards your friend's outstretched hand. Your friend takes hold of it and manages with tremendous efforts born of desperation to pull free of the quagmire and drag himself/herself to safety beside you. Unfortunately, the staff gets pushed down in the mud by these exertions, and by the time your friend's out of danger, it is impossible to extract it. You watch the staff sink out of sight with only scant regret. It might have proved useful later, after all, but you would rather lose a simple item of equipment than your boon companion. Cross the staff off your list of belongings. Yep, I told you my wizard's going to lose his staff. And he's lost his staff. Now you retrace the path with angry strides to the spot where you encountered the trowel. You intend to deal with him for his morbid prank. But both he and the murky fire have vanished, as though they had never been. Since revenge is impossible, you resolve to head on out of the dangerous marsh as quickly as you can. Yeah, this is a little mild diversion then, wasn't it? At last, you reach the deserted maze of the infamous Grim Dugald. It seems you've already had as harrowing a night as any you can remember just in crossing the bleak moors, but your perils are far from over yet. You look at the darkened maze, with its high gables, gaping window sockets, and shroud of ivy, and the feeling of foreboding makes you shudder to your core. Still, you will not make things any better by hanging out here. You might as well get things over with. If only you knew what the things in question were. Cautiously, you advance along a path until you reach the edge of a wide trench that surrounds the maze like a moat. There's no water in it, but the dim moonlight brims it with shadows. There's a kind of bridge spanning the moat. It is not like any bridge you ever saw before, however, as it is made up of thick square tiles of pale marble which hover magically in the air without supports. The tiles are about 2 paces on each side and close enough for you to easily jump between them. You have noticed they are furry with grey mould that also hangs regularly down towards the moat. So I can then go across the hovering tiles or descend into the dry moat. I'm going to go across the tiles, and if the tiles fall, well, it's not exactly that far to the bottom of the moat if you could climb down there. Walking on the bridge is more difficult than you had expected, because it is an uneven coating of fungus and the fact that some of the tiles are tilted at a slight angle. If you have a length of rope, then you can tie yourself together and cross without much danger. If not, you might prefer to climb down into the moat, get to the maze that way instead. Well, I can't do anything with the rope because I don't have the rope. So do I still want to use the bridge, or do I want to give up on the bridge and just cross around the moat? See, I don't think I want to cross the moat. I'm gonna go across the bridge still. So I get to use my speed stats sometime. Each player has to roll 1 dice, trying to score less or equal to his speed score. Yay! Anyone who fails this roll plunges off the bridge and falls to his or her doom on the palings in the bottom of the moat. Survivors is ready to turn to the next thing. Right. So, my 4 heroes need to roll a dice to see which one of them dies. But Barbarians first. I roll the d6 and Barbarian gets 2. This is less than his score of 3. He's fine. I roll for the Dwarf. Dwarf gets 4. Oh dear, Dwarfy. I now have a dead dwarf. Well, that's pretty quick. You know what? Before he falls, he throws the garlic to the Barbarian. Is that cheating? Well, pass. Barbarian's got enough hands for it. Let's see. My elf is next. My elf rolls a 4 and survives. Yay. Then my wizard. With a score of 3. Let's see what he gets. 1. My wizard survives. Right, so I've lost 1 of my 4 companions. Yeah. You arrive safely at the porch. A stout iron-bound door blocks your way, with thorn bushes grown up all over it. The hinges have rusted only slightly through the long years of neglect. It does not seem you have much chance in breaking in. A glance at the walls offers no hope of entry through the windows either. Though the lights have fallen in, the stone bars are too closely set for anyone to squeeze through. With the moat and strong defences, this place could have been built to withstand a siege. Being a frontier manor house, you realise it probably was. With no way of getting inside, your adventure ends before it's hardly begun. Or is there a way? Experienced adventurers ought to be able to think of something, but don't hold your breath waiting for a clue. Now this is interesting. I've got a choice. If I can really think of nothing better, I can return across the bridge and clamber down to the moat. But if I do think of something better, I'm gonna say pass through rock. Because pass through rock might allow me to do something. So let's look at my pass through rock wall. It says if I'm on section 108, it's something I can do. I am on section 108. I go to 17. See, now apparently I'm seasoned enough to know I got a spell. This is probably true. So I better remove that spell from the wizard's stuff, because I've passed through that rock, even though the door isn't actually rock. Using the spell, the wizard slips through the wall and unbars the door so the other adventurers can enter. Don't forget to raise the pass-through rock spell from your list. You step into a dilapidated entry hall. Your first impression is of cobwebs and dust. The second impression is less favourable. Rats, startled by your arrival, emit frantic squeals and go scuttling, half glimpsed into the darkness. Oh goody, there's cave in here. Probably not. You gaze up the long sweep of the stairs. Under the grim of ages, a succession of nefarious faces glow from portraits on the walls. Each looks more depraved than the one before, until finally your eyes come to rest on what must be the likeness of grim Duggold himself. You cannot even begin to imagine what twisted desire and rank indulgences could have formed in those gross features. The hot jowls, the obscene smile, and the stare brimming with cruel delight. If the devil wore a human face, that would be it. Okay, that's a bit interesting. Also, Duggold. Oh, I'm remembering a person that took by the name Duggold. He's actually a con man. I can't remember if Duggold was the pseudonym he used. Does anyone remember the book Masquerade by Kit Williams, wasn't it? Where it was a book of, he was an artist, so he did a book of paintings, and to get it released as a book, to make it more interesting and get more people to buy it, there was a quest involved. You get a bit of a story, and then you got paintings, and big paintings and double-page spread pictures, had hidden messages. And if you could solve a hidden message, it would give you a clue to somewhere in England where a actual golden hair bracelet was made. Not bracelet, necklace. It was made, and he dug it and hid it in this place. It's Kit Williamson. That was it. And the person that actually found it, he was named Duggold. It might have been like Duggold Thompson or something like that. And he was literally a con man. He'd actually conned his way to get it and then use it to do some terrible stuff with a company called Hairsoft that he found in. Yeah, it's very bad. Shame. Kit Williamson, good artist, good sculptor because he really had sculpted this thing. And part of the thing, the hair in it, with hiding it, he actually teamed up with Bamba Gascoigne, who was quite a smart man, if people remember Bamba Gascoigne. He hosted a show called Mastermind. No, he didn't. Bamba Gascoigne hosted a show called University Challenge. I've heard rumours the show still goes on without him, but I got no clue, and I can't see how they can replace him. They're trying to replace Magnus Magnusson on Mastermind. Even Morecambe Wise is Magnus Magnusson on Mastermind. Anyway, you tear your gaze away despite a horrified fascination. Off to one side, below the stairs, steps lead down to the cellar. At the back of the hall is an archway. On the lintel over this is displayed Duggold's coat of arms, a raised fist in scarlet, bearing a flail on an ebon field. Interesting design. Do I want to go up the stairs? Do I want to go through the archway? Or do I want to go to the cellar? Well, I've already fought vampire, so I'm going to go to the cellar. Rickety steps lead down to the cellar, whose frowsy, dust-filled air almost makes you choke. You advance between racks of wine bottles whose labels date back over many years. You notice one vintage, reclining under a thick gathering of grime of over a century ago. If you wish to take one of the bottles of wine, remember to record it in your character sheet. Well, let's see. The elf is going to get drunk, because the elf's going to take wine bottle. The elf takes wine bottle. You find a door at the back of the cellar. Beyond lies a sloping passage that seems to lead down to the still deeper catacombs. The darkness returns your gaze, heavy with foreboding, but it is down there, no doubt, that you will face your destiny. Before entering the ominous passage, however, you glance back along the wine racks. You might never again get the chance to visit such well-stocked cellar. Perhaps there's time to sample just a few goblets of one of the rare vintages. Well, I'm not going to try one of the wine, because, yeah, I'm going to decide not to waste any time and carry on going down to the catacombs. Because I like saying the word catacombs. Probably because it has the word cat in it. You go deep down into the earth. Finally, you emerge from the tunnel in a cave so vast that you cannot see the walls or the roof at all. A torch glimmers in the bracket on the wall beside you. If there are any mortal players left, aren't all of them mortal, i.e. the wizard and the barbarian, then you must take a torch, otherwise they'll be unable to see. You will have to retain it while in the catacombs, as long as the barbarian and wizard survive. The elf and dwarf have enough night vision not to need torchlight. Yeah, I'm a bit confused about what the term mortal in this context, but yep, my wizard will take a torch. You can nicely use a flaming torch, which will be very useful indeed. You reach the edge of the subterranean lake, but the water and your surroundings are so silent and black that you almost seem to be in a void. You see only the white stone quay underfoot, the gleam of the torchlight on the still water, and the white lacquered rowboat tethered to a bollard on the quay. If anyone wants to drink some of the lake water, you can do so. Yeah. You've described how bad this water is, and then you think somebody might like to drink it. Well, I suppose it would let me see if there's any monsters there. I got a feeling it might be a bit dangerous water. Yeah, I'm going to take the chance and just carry on across the boat. The oars fall almost without a sound into the opaque waters. You drift out from the quay surrounded by an eerie hush. You have not been rowing for long when the landing stage comes into sight. This is also white stone, like the quay you set out from. Am I pronouncing that right, quay? Yeah. It is completely surrounded by water. In the middle, you can see a small shrine, like the shrine of pagan times, consisting of a marble dome supported by pillars carved into the shape of human figures. As a tasteless and grotesque embellishment, the figures are depicted bound in shackles as though being stretched on a rack. You cannot see clearly into the shrine except to tell that there is something large resting on the altar stone. So do I dock at this landing stage or row past it? I'm going to dock at the stage because this sounds like a sacrificial altar. If I'm dealing with the undead, I want a sacrificial altar to find to rescue somebody. And what do you mean? Shrine like in pagan times? Well, in my fantasy world, at this period, you would have those put quite modern. Okay, especially a barbarian's tribe. Your hair stands on end as you walk towards the shrine. You do not need any sixth sense to tell you that it is a place of great wickedness. Yeah, your first fight would do it, Joe, didn't they? Stepping between the pillars, you see a grey stone coffin laying on the altar stone. Unlike the rest of the shrine, the coffin is very crudely worked and deeply weathered, as if it had been exposed to the elements for years. Before you can make a move towards the coffin, there's a ghastly bobbling growl, and four figures shamble from behind the altar to attack you. They are women, chalk white of flesh and listless of gaze, whose black hair and robes hang lankly as though damp. These are apparently the undead brides, because there are four undead brides. Each have a combat of 3 and a body of 1. There's enough room in the shrine for all players to get involved in the melee. It's time for combat. So, in order to combat, I roll a dice. The next one rolls a dice. Then the next one rolls a dice. Right. So the barbarian is first. He'll fight the first bride. The barbarian has a combat value of 5. So on this d6, I need a 1 to 5. And I roll a 1. Barbarian defeats the first bride. She only has a body point of 1. I do not have a dwarf anymore because he fell into the water. I fell in the water. So next would be my elf. He has a combat of 4. I will roll a 2. He takes out the second undead bride. My wizard has a combat of 3. He better try well. He rolls a dice and gets a 4. My wizard has just missed. That was my 3 heroes. Now it's the undead turn. The third undead bride is attacking the wizard, and the fourth is attacking the barbarian. So let's see, the third one attacks the wizard, rolls 2, hits the wizard. Wizard lose 1 body. The fourth one will roll, gets a 1. It hits the barbarian, who goes down to 7. Now it's my combat phase. A barbarian will attack the third bride. He rolls a 3 and takes out that third bride. Next, my elf will try the fourth bride. My elf rolls a 5. My elf misses the bride. But I've still got a wizard. Oh dear. Wizard's gonna roll. Wizard rolls a 1. The wizard does it. The wizard takes out the fourth bride. And yet, the elf couldn't. Poor old elf. Right. If there are survivors, turn to this one page. But yet there are survivors, and I'm not fleeing. Even as you approach the coffin, you smell the slaughterhouse stench rising from it. It is filled with blood, and you can only pray it is not human blood. Well, my elf is more praying that it's not elf blood, but never mind. What vile monster would keep such a grisly thing here? With a shudder, you at last begin to guess the truth. Oh, maybe it's a vampire. Although really, would vampires keep fountains of blood? I suppose they'd get some reserves. On the altar at the base of the coffin is a large bronze key. You decide this is certainly worth taking. However, this is the problem, because you're carrying too much. Yeah. I want to keep my holy water. I want to keep my garlic. I want to keep my torch. So I have to get rid of the wine bowl. Poor old Elfie can't get drunk. So he now gets the bronze key. Record it in somebody's character sheet, even if something else may be discarded. Yeah. If I have a vial of holy water, I want to use it now. I'm going to say, actually, I'll use the holy water. See if I'll do something with. See if that'll do something. So you empty the contents of the vial into the thick red mass. There's no perceivable effect, but you are convinced that this will make things difficult for the coffin's owner, whom you suspect of having an aversion to holy water. All players should record the code word Carfax on the character sheet. Oh, what a surprise. Carfax, as in Carfax Abbey. Yeah, we got the big feeling that this is going to be a vampire-y story, isn't it? Right. There's nothing else for you to do here, so you return on the boat to cross the underground lake. You eventually reach the far side of the lake. Unlike the quay you set out from, this is not a man-made landing place, but a shore of white pebbles. Dragging the boat up on the beach so that it will not drift off, you commence a search of the area. Quite soon you find a locked door on the back wall of the cave. It is stout, bronze-bound oak. Pressing your ear to the door, you can just make out the sounds like muffled sobs. Do I have the bronze key? Yes, I do have the bronze key. I do want to use the bronze key. That's why I've got the bronze key for. Can I keep saying bronze key? Bronze key. It'd be nice if all doors were made of the same material the keys needed. Right. 77, right. A host of large white bats drop down from out the darkness. They will fight to their death to prevent you from opening that door. Proof, if you needed it, that something of priceless importance lies beyond it. There are 5 bats. There's enough room for every player to get involved in the fight. So let's see. Each bat has a combat of 2 and a body of 1. Combat time. Barbarian rolls. He's attacking the first albino bat. He rolls a 6. The only number the barbarian can't roll, and he rolls it. Barbarian misses against the first bat. The elf goes against the second bat. Elf gets a 2. Elf takes out the second bat. Wizard goes for the third bat. Wizard rolls. Wizard gets a 6. Wizard misses. Right. So the first bat is still alive. So it will roll. And it gets a 6. It misses. The third bat is alive. It's the wizard. He rolls. Gets a 3. He misses. The fourth bat will go against the barbarian. He misses. The fifth bat goes against the elf. He hits the elf. The elf's taking his first wound. Now they've all been hit. Apart from the dwarf who's dead. So now my barbarian can attack the first bat again. Rolls a 3. It takes out the first bat. My wizard can attack the third bat. 2. The wizard takes out the third bat. And it wasn't the wizard, it's the elf. Sorry. The wizard can attack the fourth bat. He gets a 5, he misses. Right. This means I've got 2 bats still alive. The fourth and fifth, I believe. Yeah. So the fourth bat is going to attack the barbarian. And misses. The fifth bat is going to attack the elf. And misses. Barbarian is now going to attack the fourth bat. And hits him. Fourth bat is taken out. Now the elf is going to attack the final bat, the fifth one. And he hits him and he's taken out. Oh goody, they've all survived. You unlock the door, it opens with a gravid creak to reveal a young girl cowering inside a small bare cell. My name is Predator, and I am from the village a few miles across the moor, she tells you. How do you come to be here, you ask. I am not sure. On my way home, I was overtaken by dusk. Since this is Samhain Eve, I quickened my step. But just then I saw a tall shadow of a figure lurking among the trees by the side of the road. I crossed over and hurried by on the other side, but I hadn't gone far before I saw the figure again, somehow ahead of me, still. I began to feel very frightened then. I lost sight of the figure as I backed away down the road. Then suddenly, I bumped into something large behind me, and I was seized. That is the last I remember. Realizing this is no place to hang around, you take Predator to the boat and row it back across the lake. Ascending through the cellar, you emerge into the entrance hall of the maze once more. If you are going to breathe a sigh of relief, however, then it was premature. Someone is here waiting for you. Grim Dugald stands in the gloom of the hall. He has been waiting for you. His flesh is the color of candlelight. The otherworld energies have swollen his already huge frame until his head almost scrapes the rafters. His eyes, 2 icy pebbles in the mistletoe brush of his beard and hair, roll horribly. As he sees you, his growl of hate is like a howl of a hanged man. Do I have an item I want to use? What shall I use? A vial of holy water and a bottle of wine? Nope, don't have even a vial of holy water in his own. Nope, got rid of that. Bigger garlic. How's bigger garlic? I'll try bigger garlic. I'll shout, how do you want your butter? You had heard that Grim Dugald died 30 years ago. Is he now a vampire? Who can say? The realm of the supernatural spurns such glib classifications. But certainly he seems to shrink back from the garlic flowers as you thrust them towards him. I can now subtract 1 from his combat score because he's distracted by the garlic. And that means I'm going to get a bit of a fight here, aren't I? Do you have the code word Carfax written in your character sheets? Yes, I do. I have the code word Carfax. Because I made the whole reference about Carfax Abbey. Grim Dugald towers over you, more monstrous even than in life. He will kill you if you can for trespassing in his maze. And you must fight now as never before. Grim Dugald has a combat of 5 and a body of 10. A body of 10? Whoa. There's room for up to 3 players to fight him at one time. The 4th can cast spells, if any. The sword Wraith Breather, if you have it, will inflict double damage on him. Well, I don't have the sword. I -1 from his combat because of using the garlic. But 10 body points. Yay. So, let's see, since I only have 3 players left, that means all 3 can attack at once. And with all 3 attacking at once, that will actually help. So first, I better check what spells I've actually got to do stuff with. Let's see, healing. Healing. Okay, I can try these things. Right, first off, our barbarian is going to attack him. So, barbarian rolls. And gets a 1. Barbarian hits him. He's down to 9. My elf is going to hit him. Well, at least my elf is going to try. He rolls a dice. He didn't say I used the bronze keyboard. He used up at the machine. He rolls a 5. He misses him. It's a pain. My wizard is going to cast the spell Fire of Wrath, which means I do 2 points of damage. So his 9 has gone down to 7. Then he gets a chance to attack one of mine. He'll attack the barbarian because barbarian's in order first. He attacks, he rolls, and he scores 6. He misses. Ha ha ha. A barbarian then rolls. A barbarian hits him. His 7 has gone down to 6. My elf is going to roll. And hits him. No, he doesn't. My elf misses. Right. Then my wizard. My wizard is actually going to cast the spell of... And I think it's courage, it said. Yes, he's going to cast the spell of courage on the elf. This will increase the elf's combat to 5, the same as the barbarian, which means he's got less chance of missing. I'm going to use that spell. Now, Duggold here is going to attack the barbarian again. And he hits the barbarian. Barbarian's down to 6. Barbarian's going to roll to attack. Barbarian hits. Duggold is down to 5. The elf is going to roll. My elf hits. Well, actually misses a 5. So that's down to 4 now. My wizard is going to check his spells again. Because did I have another spell that does 2 damage? I actually probably don't, but let's have a look. No. No. No, I don't. Well, it does 1 damage, but nah. Okay, wizard will roll to attack. Wizard gets a 4. Wizard misses. Fair enough. Duggold is going to attack barbarian again. Duggold gets a 1, hits the barbarian. Barbarian's down now to 5. Barbarian hits Duggold. Barbarian misses. Elf attacks Duggold. Elf hits Duggold. Duggold is now down to 3. Wizard is going to attack Duggold. Wizard misses. Typical. Duggold's attacking. Duggold misses. Barbarian's attacking. Barbarian hits. Duggold is down to 2. Elf attacks. Elf hits. Duggold is down to 1. Wizard said he's not going to take any chances. Wizard's going to cast a spell, Ball of Flame. This does 1 point of damage if they can't roll a 1 or a 2. Duggold rolls to defend. Duggold rolls a 5. Duggold is dead. Yay. Grim Duggold falls. The floorboards shake with the impact, which sends clouds of dust into the air. But is he truly beaten? Can you kill one who has already tasted death? Before your eyes, the strong white fingers twitch, and a growl of returning strength rises quickly from his black maw. Quickly, before he reanimates, you must do something. The desperate struggle has left you too weary to fight, but what alternative is there? Do I open the door and race off into the night? Or do I think I have an item that might dispatch him for good? Let's see what items I'm carrying. I don't really have the garlic now, I'm spawn. So my wizard has nothing but his sword. Barbarian, sorry. Wizard has a flaming torch. Yeah. Do I leg it? Well, if this was Dracula, you'd stick holy wafers down his throat. But I don't think I can use holy wafers in this because I don't have any. So I guess I'm going to have to just leg it. You gasping for breath. You chase in a blind panic across the moors. Cold moonlight pants a maelstrom of wild fells, sucking hollows and stunted trees, all of which hurtle past in a blur. Then, as you stagger up the side of a hillock, the distant blare of a hunting horde echoes out of the distance behind you, and you hear the terrible baying of phantom hounds at your heels. Yep, it seems like I've got some problems. If Peddler told me I'd do something, Peddler didn't tell me I'd do something, I brought stuff from the Peddler instead. I'm gonna have to do fight thing, can't I? You try to struggle on, but to no avail. Terror takes all your strength from your legs, and you fall in your tracks with an exhausted groan. The hounds come sweeping down on you in a tide of evil. Their grisly panting covers you in a charnel stench. Hot breath rasps your flesh. Gory slobber scalds you, and you are too weak with fear even to look up. As they swirl about you, you hear the whinny of a horse, and a short sneering laughter of unattainable cruelty. Huge hands seize you, and then Grim Dugald rides back home with his bag. Your adventure ends here. So basically, I've just died. That's a bit weird. So, I've actually played this mission, and I've died though. Yeah. So, what did I think? Well, it's a take on Dracula, isn't it? I mean, Perdita is clearly a reference to Mina Harker, or Lucy, depending on if you get the official version or not. Grim Dug. Actually, she's more like the what's name from Hand of Baskervilles. Yeah, I could say a bit of this does actually remind me of a cross between Dracula and Hand of Baskervilles. But again, the Carfax thing. Now, I would have thought sticking the. I'm not quite sure why his coffin was covered in blood, but you thought the blood sustained himself, covered it with water, he wouldn't be able to heal. So, but it's not too bad comparison. The writing's not too bad. Tells a story. Yeah, I died though. It's still a bit. How many hounds were they? All three of mine was still quite strong. So yeah, that's one thing I will say. The instant deaths. No matter how many body points you get, instant death. It was a bit of a cop out in a way, and there wasn't much use that speed stat. But again, that's fair enough. But on the whole, not too bad. This was the first of the HeroQuest adventure game books, or rather, the adventure game stories in the normal novels. And yeah, I might look at the others. It's not too bad. I'll say same kind of thing. The only slight complaint I'll say is, other than the reference to the Blackfire Pass, what the hell has it got to do with Warhammer? Okay, HeroQuest was loosely in the Warhammer universe, to the fact that it was Milton Bradley was the publishing one, but a lot. Actually, there's some people debate this, how much HeroQuest was Games Workshop and how much it was Milton Bradley. And I've seen some people say, oh, it's actually Milton Bradley had the idea. They went to Games Workshop, who then slapped on the figures and their styling on it. Others say, no, it's Games Workshop, they went to Milton Bradley. Or there are conflicting stories from people who kind of should know. and I'm not quite sure how much it was true. But either way, HeroQuest was set in the Warhammer world. There were loose references because, but there was quite references. It's clearly that world. Orcs behaved as orcs, goblins as goblins. Well, I said I don't think trowels were actually used in Warhammer. The vampire, as he's described, kind of fits. They're not quite sure the setting though, because like an ancient, basically an old-fashioned pink pagan thing from bygone era. But then the pagan that sort of thing would be modern day for the barbarian. They would still do it with the shamans and druids. So this is kind of more Warhammer Fantasy Battle, slightly later than that period. Because no, sorry, not Fantasy Battle. This is a bit like Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, but slightly later. There is a bit of a, again, debate within the people. I always felt that Warhammer Roleplay seems to be a slightly later era than Fantasy Battle. It's roughly the same, but probably because it's more focused on the Empire, though. It seems a bit less of the older, early medieval periods and more middle medieval periods. But this is just personal. Yeah. This story seems to be set late medieval period, if not a bit newer. Basically, set in this kind of time you would think Dracula is. But it's hard to say. So the bits of it are clearly Warhammer, clearly HeroQuest. There are also bits that look like they're just write this, see if it passes. But again, Warhammer, especially that has always been up and down at times. It gives people a bit of a range what they can go into. These Phantom Hounds would seem like a really nasty thing. But yeah. Oh no, I think not too bad. So leave your feedback. Be nice. See if anybody's interested in this. I mean, in theory, I could give this one another go, but that's gonna get very repetitive, and the battle scenes probably get a bit repetitive going over them, because of course roll dice, yeah, blah, blah, roll dice here. That's I got no problem doing that. It's just audio-wise, it's gonna sound a bit dull. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. So again, that was the HeroQuest in the Night season from the Fellowship of Four, 1991, Corgi Books, written by Dave Morris.